What's up?
What's that?
Like wrestling you down to get you back on the show, was fun. I was like, and I kept telling Iva, I was like, hey, don't stay on her. It'll be worth it. I promise it'll be worth it. So
I know I'm hard to wrangle. I'm a hard one to wrangle.
You guys are nonstop. So much going on. You and Bruce, and so I know you're even the family experience here with the kiddos down in tropical paradise. So I appreciate you carving out the time and jumping.
Oh, I always make time for you, John Kitchens.
Oh, I appreciate that. And we're just kind of chatting before we hopped on, and just kind of been changing up, the conversations, and all the conversations we have, they all dump into the podcast. So, the Coach Code podcast, but we've got the saying, you've been on the Expert Mentors conversation, you've been the Coffee and Coaching, just straight up Coach Code. And so now just kind of the agent to CEO conversation. And I just think there's nobody better to dive into this conversation than you, and just really cool to see like what you and Bruce and have been able to do, right? Like thinking through just all of the crap that you guys had to deal with going into 20, and then, coming out of 2021, and just the continued push and growth. And it's just been really fun and cool to see.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I appreciate that so much. And I always, people always say, well, Lindsay, you have to take a minute to acknowledge how far you've come. And I'm like, okay, yep, minute, we're good. Let's keep going. But I think so much of my clarity and growth really came from you. I mean, I tell everybody that. I just think back to like when we met, John, I feel like it was such a pivotal point in our business because we really were a mess. And we didn't have clarity. We didn't have mission, vision, values. We didn't have it like the VTO. None of that was built out. And it really got us to think about like what we wanted. Yeah. Because I love the name agent to CEO. I was an agent. Like I still have the heart and spirit of an agent. And I don't ever want to lose that because I feel like that's how I connect and relate to my team. But at that point, I was an agent and people were wanting to join us. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't know the direction of the company at that point. And it's grown pretty considerably over those years. And, I think, I have a lot to thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And, you guys did the work. And, it's just I know one thing to be true is that, the size of your business is in direct proportion to the size of your leadership capabilities. So for your business to be where it's at, it's a direct, correlation to you. You've grown, Bruce has grown. And, just watching how you guys evolved from a leadership perspective, and, it all starts with you. You know that is that, and just my belief, we can't coach and lead another human until we can coach and lead ourselves first. And one of the things that I saw immediately especially, in you, was that you already knew how to grow. It's just connecting the dots and understanding how we do anything is how we do everything. And the one thing that I've seen, where you've excelled tremendously is definitely tapped into to be able to correlate into business and into relationships is how you push yourself as an endurance athlete and what that means. And like a lot of people don't understand the mental aspect of really it's all mental. I mean, really the endurance side of things, it is 95% mental.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And so being able to see that from you, I would love for you to just kind of share and unpack, how you've evolved there, and then how, kind of thinking through with everything, the growth on the endurance side, your mental growth, and how that's been able to carry over into the business.
Yeah. So I'm like you, I'm a little crazy, and people always say that you're crazy. I said, no, I'm passionate. Right. And like everything I do, ever since I was little, everything I do, I'm just so committed to 100%. And I say that, like, I don't care if it was babysitting, waitressing, whatever it was, like throughout the course of my life and career, I've always just been committed to it. And I don't ever, not that I don't ever get distracted, but I'm very much okay just putting my head down and grinding it out and not worrying that something's better, or what if I did it this way? Maybe, you know, things would be different. Like, I just put my head down and I grind. But I do think running has taught me so much about that, you know, about just like good days and bad days and being tired and being cold and not wanting to get up and not wanting to get out there. It's like, you know, you can make excuses or you can just show up. And I always say, by the time I've complained and talked myself out of it and sat there with my sneakers on the ground and, oh my God, you know, I would have been back by now. So just shut up and get out the door and like do the work. But I'm, you know, like an eternal student. You know, I'm very coachable. I like being told what to do, and endurance sports is very much that way. You know, I have coaches that program me and I show up for them and I'm accountable to them. And that's just how you get like a little bit better, a little bit faster, a little bit stronger. A big goal for me in 2023 was to qualify for Boston. And that was like my one focus, you know, and I was really committed to it. And it's hard. You know, somebody said, oh, well, it's easy for you because you're fast. I'm like, no, it's literally every day I'm working at being fast and being strong and, you know, like getting my, you know, my levels up to a place where I can push through things just a little bit quicker. So it's consistency, man. It's just consistently doing the work that we all are trying to avoid doing. That's it.
Yeah. Is it the competitive? Is it just kind of the competitiveness in you, or is it something else?
I'm pretty competitive, you know, although, you know, I always say run your race. You know, I'm not worried about what other people are doing, but if I see, you know, Bruce would laugh at me. He's like, that's a bunch of BS. I'm competitive. Yeah, I'm competitive, but yes. I am very much, you know, like if I start a race or anything I'm doing, I'm not worried about what's happening around me. I'm not worried about like with Boston specifically, when I started New York, you know, because you've run New York, there's pacing groups, right? And the pacing groups will set the pace, and that's who you'll stick with the pack and they'll push you forward. I can't do that. I can't sit with a pacing group because I start getting in my head and I'm like, you know what? Yeah. I'm not going to look. I'm not going to watch. I'm just going to run my race. But yeah, I think I just am clear on what I'm trying to accomplish, and I just will do whatever it takes to make it happen.
Talk a little bit more about that running your race, because I think if you kind of what that means and then kind of how it applies to everything else, because yeah, I just thinking through, like if you get caught up, even with the pacing groups, that's not your race. It's like it'll destroy you. And then it gets you back into your head. And man, it's just like disaster.
Right. And I know, like my qualifying time, I had to run the 3:30, right? I see the group, I see the guy, he's got the 3:30 thing on his little stick. And I know if I just run with him, I will hit the 3:30. But I can't, because it mentally exhausts me. I start getting, you know, in my own way, like, oh my God, is this too fast? Is it too hot? Did I wear the right color? La, 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 you know, and then I just start spinning out of control. And it's like that in business, right? Like everybody on my team I'm always telling them, stop worrying about what everybody else is doing. Stop trying to do a podcast, or stop trying to do a billboard or this or that, or, you know, like just focus on the simple things, right? And in running, for me, it was my mileage and building my mileage and working on speed. And in real estate, it's making your dials and connecting with people and being face to face. It's like, if you just do the tiny things, the things we don't want to do because we think social media or a podcast or a TV show is going to fix it, you'll see the most progress is had just doing like the really simple activities.
And, you know, one of the things that I found when you get into that, and we've all, we've learned that, right? Like we hear that run your own race, but until you experience it and then you crash and burn, you're like, okay, got it. And then when you get back at it again, you're like, no, like as much as your ego, as much as it pulls, right? There's just, the outside pressures and the fakeness on social media and the things are like, oh, it falls in, the gap in the gain concept. It'll quickly get you right into that gap. And then you're done. And if you don't have the experience or the framework or the mental models or things, you'll quit. And, I thinking back now to the two endurance races that I quit. I quit the first, I quit Rocky at mile 80, and then I quit Habanero at like 64. And I think back now, right, at the time, right, we all start making excuses, right? Like, hey, I didn't hit my goals. And then we start making excuses of why we didn't hit the goals. And then, you think back to, okay, well, that's bullshit. Let me think about what was within my control. What didn't I prepare for? What didn't I do? Where did I get off track? And both of those times, I think not being prepared, not listening to coach, and I think getting out ahead and like, oh, wow. Right. Like, and I think this is a great reminder in business. And I liken it to like a river, is that you feel good. Right. But the thing that you and I know, and anybody else listening in that's done endurance events, it can change just like that. Like literally 60 seconds later, you can be feeling the exact opposite of what you feel right now. And it's such a great, like, what happens in our lives, what happens in business. Like, we could be rocking and rolling, and then all of a sudden, wham, right? Like, I didn't see that coming. And so how do you like carry that over, but also deal with those unforeseen things that we know now because we've experienced it pops up?
Yeah. I think, practice. What I hate is when everybody, maybe they look at us talking and they think we have it all figured out and, it's perfect, and it's not, right?
No.
Like, this is a process of failures and landing on our teeth and getting kicked in the face. And, with running your own race, I'd be guilty if I said I didn't do that. When I moved over to EXP specifically, I'm aligned with Dan and Kyle Whistle and Dan Beer, who are running massive organizations, doing massive things at scale. They seem so dialed in that I got very caught up in that. And then it's easy to be like, we're a mess, we're failing, oh my God, like things are falling apart, the world is ending, and just starting to get down on yourself about those things rather than just like coming back into yourself and saying, no, like, this is where I am, being present in that moment, and then doing little things to help yourself grow. In the bedroom, my kids just walked in. So yeah, I just think you have to be really okay with the seasons, right? Like, our office manager always tells us peaks and valleys, especially in real estate, like, and endurance sports and in business, right? Things are really, 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 really good. And then they're really, really, really bad and really, really good. And so you just have to be okay with that, like just riding the waves of what happens. And things now, when things go wrong in my business and deals and with teams, I'm very much like, okay, like, I go into action. Like, crises are when I feel like I thrive. So I just know that things are happening and I got to kick it into full gear, and I got to be super focused and not emotional and just come up with a solution. Right.
I love that. So how do you, and I love the correlation, right? Like, we're talking endurance and then how it directly applies to business. And so as you were talking, I was thinking about, when things go bad, my default is, okay, well, back to, okay, what is within my control?
Yes. And
what can I do to stay within my control? But also when things are good. And I think this is where a lot of people, they don't look at this.
Don't be complacent.
And am I doing the things within my control that I would be also doing if things were going completely opposite? So like, from a running perspective, we always find these little grooves, right? Where we feel great. Like, holy man, I can go forever like this. This is perfect. And I've caught myself to where when I get like that I'm like, okay, well, whoa. Back to basics. What am I focused on here? Where's my breathing? Where's my cadence? Am I moving my knees? Like all the things that I would immediately think about if things were going bad.
Yes.
How important is that?
Well, here's the deal, right? Like, and I think I'm going to associate this to what's happening in the real estate industry, because I'm in touch with a lot of team leaders across the country that have sort of, everybody got a little too complacent, right? The market was too strong. Everybody got really sort of just like took their foot off the gas. And I think it's in times where you're feeling good and things are good that you have to be even more careful not to just take your foot off the gas and coast. You have to be really focused in the easy times to also make sure that you're pushing yourself forward. And I know, when I am feeling good and I'm feeling really strong and, oh my God, I'm going fast, I don't go there because I know like the pain is right around the bend. Like I'm going to get kicked in the face right around the bend. And that's exactly what happens without fail. So you have to be ready for the failure to set in, when you're feeling the best and you're not prepared for what's around the bend, which is not always rainbows and butterflies. You just have to know that it's coming. And when it comes, right, that's repetition. That's being through it enough times to know like, okay, here's what's here. It's here. This is what I know now that I need to do, right? Stay calm, breathe, focus, get out of your head. Most importantly, what can I control? What can I do differently? And, just take a minute. I always say, right, when you get knocked down, what they always tell you to do, is get back up, right? Get right back up, brush yourself off. And I grew up, my dad was a boxer. So my whole life has been like a series of boxing analogies, but you get back up. But what you really need to do is just stay down for a minute, assess, think about what happened. What could I have done differently? What didn't I do to prepare for this? And reflect. And then get back up.
Then get back up. I love that, right? Because sometimes if you hop right back up, you're going to get hit again in the same way that you got knocked down. And if you don't, like, all right, where did that come from? What did I miss? And, I think it's the whole, skipping steps only presents the illusion of speed.
Literally need to put that on my office. Because I say it at least once a week in some meeting, John Kitchen's classic. I always tell everybody on my team that, right? Because that's what everybody wants to do. Mm-hmm. They just want to skip over all of it and just get to success. Well, it's just not possible in anything, right? In real estate, whatever you want to do in your life, it's just not possible.
It's going to get you at some point. Right? Like if you don't articulate something that pops up at, once you get into escrow before you get to the closing table, it is going to hit you at some point. Yep. So like, that's just like one of the best reminders in every office I've ever been in. That's the first thing that I write above. The very first thing is skipping steps presents the illusion of speed. And it's just a reminder, like you cannot skip any step, right? Like even back to the fundamentals, to the basics, to John Wooden, right? Like I think about that in the morning. I'm sure you do it unconsciously, but it's just like, okay, is my sock right? Because, I battle my feet, right? It's part of the reason why, I haven't tried to push harder and faster is trying to figure out my feet situation. Mm-hmm. And so like, okay, do I have the socks? And I can catch, I catch myself. I got in trouble on a couple races because I felt good, feet, no problems. I don't need to change my socks. I can go an extra 10 miles. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just a matter of time. It's going to get you. And the reality of it is that when that hits, you can't get pissed, right? Like, it's like, if you know that the signs were there, like you should get it taken care of. And it's like the things in our business that sometimes we allow certain people to hang around too long, or we keep pouring money on things, and all of a sudden it hits, and then we're like, what? Right? Yep. It's like, why are you surprised? Were the warning signs there? Like, yeah. Then why didn't you do something about it?
And it gets easier, right? Failure gets easier. The more you fail, as long as you use failure as a tool to propel yourself forward. I'm not afraid to fail. I'm very okay with learning rather than, winning. It's just part of the process that I understand. And, you know, we have to teach agents that too, right? Especially if you're the name of the podcast, Agent to CEO. If you're planning to scale anything worthwhile, there's going to be a lot of failure in between. And I think even when you get there, even when you arrive, that is when you have to be the most prepared, because, you know, I told an agent on my team last week, because the second you feel like you're the best or you're better than somebody else, you're F-U-C-K. You are screwed, right? Like, you constantly have to be just pushing yourself forward. And even when it's all good, you just got to be really humble and make sure that you're continuing to learn and just do better, right? You know, we have this mantra, 1% better every day.
Yeah.
It's a core value on our team. We live and breathe it. And that's part of, right, I think leadership is embodying what you're preaching. Are you also living in your core values? Are you showing your people what it's like to be the best version of themselves? I think a lot of leaders preach a lot of things, but they don't live the things that they're preaching. Therefore, you know, how is anybody else going to adapt to what you're expecting them to do? So I just think everything we do in our life and in our business is to show other people like it's possible, right? And to live it and be it, really.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's the whole, you know, embracing that leading by example. Do you feel for you, because I think we're talking a lot about, you know, the mental models, the ways to think. You look at kind of the skill set for individuals, especially newer coming into the business, as you have, you know, team members coming in, but even on a on that higher level. Do you feel like from a skill set, right? You know, anything that's a skill can be learned and developed. Do you feel like one of the things that gets skated past that we, you know, could maybe learn a little bit quicker is better frameworks to think, better mental models, like you were sharing the values, and, you know, really, you know, our core values are decision-making filters, but like really think back, you know, like we had to learn that the hard way. Do you think that would have shortcut the process a little bit if we were developed and kind of learned how to think better earlier on?
Yeah, I think I don't care if you're experienced in real estate, if you have sales skills, I don't care. You know, yes. Am I concerned with, are you afraid to get on the phone? The first thing we do with our agents now is if you want to join our team, you're going to shoot a video, right? We're passionate about putting people out there on video. If you're afraid of video, we're probably not the environment for you. So check that off the box, right? But I'm not concerned about these like little sales skills that people need to have in real estate. I'm concerned about, are you willing to be held accountable? Do you have personal responsibility? Are you coachable? Do you want to be 1% better every day? Like, are these qualities of yourself that you feel like you would be in alignment with our team? We're intense, you know, I'm mindful of that because we invite people into our Tuesday meetings as guests. And I realize, you know, sometimes we're like, oh, they were pretty quiet, you know, but then I have to remember, like, we're a pretty fierce ecosystem. It's kind of hard to just drop in to be a visitor, but I'm more concerned about that. Like, will you show up? Can you be held accountable? Like I said, are you coachable? More than that, because if I can just get them to show up and get them to not make excuses, which I hate, right? 100-0, then I can teach them, if they're showing up, how to negotiate the best way, how to write the best offer, how to script and role play and learn. And if they don't show up and if they lead with excuses, then they're never gonna, I just don't think they're ever gonna succeed. So I'm just more in line with who they are mentally, emotionally, spiritually, than who they are as a real estate agent. I don't care about that.
Are you trying to pull out of them? Is it desire? Is it the because, you know, the because goals? Is it, you know, have you read Patrick Bet-David's new book, Choose Your Enemies Wisely?
No, but I'm sure I would love it. And yes, day one of onboarding is a deep dive into who they are, right? What is their background? What is their trauma? Why are they here? Like, why real estate? And ultimately, what is beyond their why? Like, what's going to motivate them to do the things that they need to do, right?
Yeah.
We have agents on our team that have come out of abusive relationships. Their dad worked 3 jobs. Their mom was never around. Like, they have to buy their kids a house. We've had people lose spouses, sickness, all of these things. One of our literally most badass agent on our team, she's new. She's 1 year on our team. She's a total boss. Her husband was deployed in Iraq 4 times. And he was the squad leader going into war. And because he was the squad leader going into fight, she became the squad leader back home for all the women, right? So she was the point of contact for all of the women who were just panicked, right? Constantly, because
Sure.
they can't reach their spouse. Are they okay? Like, have there been fatalities? All of these things. But what we acknowledged with her on day one is, like, she had a fire in her belly that nobody would ever be able to take away from her, because she invested her whole life into being a wife, a military wife, and raising her children. She said, I'm going on deployment now, right? Like, I'm deploying myself. It's my turn. And I'm going to pay it forward for all he's given to us. I'm going to give back to him. I'm like, you will never replicate that. You will never take that away from her. And she's just so focused and committed on making her husband and her kids proud of her. So it's little things like that have nothing to do with, oh, I want to sell 20 houses. Like, what is it inside of you that when you don't show up, John Kitchens, I'm going to look at you and say, when I met, you told me your only goal was to buy you and your 2 kids a house. And the way you're behaving, right, and what you're doing is not in alignment with what your ultimate goal is. And then you attach to what they really truly are going to be moved to do.
Yeah.
Which is the deep why.
Yeah.
Somebody always cries in day one of onboarding. And if they don't cry, I don't let them out. As soon as the first one cries, I'm like, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
It is a lot. Like, I've just identified the fact that we have trauma. And I think we just have to dig through it. And I've created this environment that it's just okay. It's okay to be not okay. And it's okay to be going through shit. And the more you let it out, the more you free yourself to just be the best version of you in business and in life and in everything.
I love that. And just hearing that, and then listening to his new book, it just brought back a lot, right? You talked about reflection and it, being able to pause and reflect, I think is one of the most critical things in the evolution and the growth that we can have, is being able to just kind of sit back and it's kind of the autopsy, right? Being able to be really good at the feedback loops. Like, if you go out and you bomb an appointment, it's like, don't skate over it. It's like, really dive deep. Where did I go wrong? What could I have done better? There's, I forget what the military has for that, right? It's an autopsy, right? You just kind of go through, you run through the whole thing. And as you're talking about that, what you're doing is you're helping them dive down to the layers, right? Everybody's like, man, I'm going to do it because of my kids. I'm going to do that. No. There's a deeper desire there, right? There's something maybe that you didn't have that you want to be able to provide for them. And so now you kind of draw a line in the sand. It's like, no matter what, they will have a better thing or better, opportunity than I had growing up. And that's what, what he talks about is that we all have an enemy. So like what you're talking about with your agent, she's wanting to make her kids and her husband proud.
That's it. Just
proud. But I would be willing to bet there's probably on the other side, somebody told her that she can't do it. And and I bet there's a layer deeper there, because we've all had it, right? We've all had those naysayers, those like, what are you doing? Like, what, like, and just like even on the running and the endurance, man, you're crazy. Why are you doing that? And so like those little things like that add fuel. I think it's a combination. I think there's the proud, and then there's the, let me prove you wrong.
Yeah. And one of the main things, speaking of her as an example, right? And it's like, the new agents. I mean, I just believe the new agent. I love the new agent. I'm one of the, maybe not the one of the only, but I am a team leader that loves brand new agents. The more, the better. But yes, she said confidence is her biggest struggle. And in terms of like leadership and being a CEO, that's one thing I'm really passionate about, is bringing my agents forward and pushing them into a place that's really scary for them. So, every week right now, we've done this in the past, we're doing it again. I had, during an icebreaker of one of our sales meetings, have everybody write down one thing they feel like they are really proficient in that they could present on. And, a lot of them are like, there's nothing, I'm brand new. I'm like, no, there is something. Because the moment they step forward and they're able to teach a group of people that they believe are better than them or more experienced than them or whatever it is, I say you become a master, right? You learn twice. You learn, and then when you teach, you master the craft. So it's just a little bit more about building their confidence and putting them forward and showing them more than anybody else that they are capable. And I've brought a lot of leaders forward in my organization. And you've taught me that, John, is like, it's the who, not the how. Mm-hmm. And inside of my little bubble of agents, I realized there are some real, true, I use the word assassin. It's probably not the best word for it, but they're like serious, like unbelievable leaders inside my team. So.
And that's directly because of you. And so I think that's where a lot of, people that want to grow organizations that fails, because they haven't expanded their leadership capabilities, and then being able to pour in and cascade that down. And I think that's a letting go, right? Like, I think it's I've got to be the leader. I've got to do everything, to no, I need to like surround myself with people that are pushing me to be better, that are better in their own way of something, right? It's pulling that unique ability out of them. Is that one of the things that you see the team leaders, those that are trying to take that next jump to, a handful of agents to maybe double digits to larger organizations? Like, where do you see the deficit or the growth opportunity as that head of company role?
I think it's that. I think it's building people. I don't think it's building salespeople. I think it's building humans, like that want to be better humans. And I think that's what's missed. Everybody's driving KPIs and dials and database integrity and all these things. It's like, no, we need to talk about the person, right? And making that person be so passionate about becoming better every day that then they do make their dials, right? And they do have 20 meaningful conversations a day, and they're doing the buyer consultations and showing up to role play. Like, there's a reason people aren't showing up for themselves. And it has nothing to do with real estate, a little bit to do with leadership, right? If leadership is failing, then people aren't committed to showing up. But I'm all about building people. And then I know the people will eventually move the transactions, but you have to build the people first. And this is not the Lindsay Stevens show. I have no ego. My face is not on the signs. Like, it's not about me. It's just never been about me. And I think a lot of leaders, that's all they really care about, right? Is like the money and their ego. And I think that an organization will fail very rapidly when that's the case. It really is about making the people inside of your organization better. That's how the organization will grow.
I agree. I mean, it really is. You're not going to get anywhere where you want to go. You can for a little bit. Maybe you can build lifestyle for yourself personally. You can build, a strong status that you attach to. But you're never going to get truly to freedom. And if you do get to freedom, you'll never get to that next evolution, which is legacy, ever. And so,
and people, they ask me all the time, like, we had a team leader from Ohio fly in and shadow us for a couple days, and that was fun. We've never done anything like that. And she was just like, I don't know how you do it, because it's so much. It's not real estate at all, right? I always say we're a personal development company disguised as a real estate company, and that's all we're really doing. But so much of my life too is where I have to be a little bit careful is I get a lot of the crises laid on me, things that are happening in people's lives. So I have to be careful because I'm an empath and I like care really deeply about people, like not to take that on personally. But yeah, I think leaders need to think about what they're ultimately trying to accomplish. And I think overall, the real estate team is not the most profitable way to make money, right? I'm very aware that I could sell real estate at a very high level and probably make more money.
Make more money.
And have less stress, right?
Yes.
And some days I do say that, you know what? I think I'm going to quit and I'm just going to go back to selling houses.
Bruce just smiles and like, okay.
And I reached out to Kyle Whistle one day. I'm like, hey, I want to join your team. And I'll take whatever split you're going to give me and I'll show up and I'll contribute. And
we're moving.
We're moving to San Diego. He's like, if you're serious, let me know. I'm like, I'm not serious.
No.
But I think, if it's profit, it's probably not the right place for you, right? Being a CEO of a team. But I think if you're passionate about making a difference and leaving a legacy, and I hear a lot of that, right? Our team is a place of real inspiration. I mean, people are just better and it's rewarding. It's really rewarding to watch.
I think you have to find, the real definition of your why is, understanding what you're the best in the world at so that you can do that thing that gives you the most fulfillment. And I would say, our businesses are just vehicles, and the vehicle is designed to get us to freedom. And everybody's definition of freedom is different. So finding what that is. And so as you move into the head of company role, and here's the thing, we say agent to CEO, you can be an agent within an organization, but you still need to become the CEO, and you need to become the CEO of your life and the CEO of your business.
Yeah.
If you're an agent, you still have your business within the organization. And it's just, how do you show up every day, right? Like as we're building these vehicles, and the real estate vehicle is, especially when you get to kind of, your status and bigger, it really just prints opportunities. It prints opportunities to impact more people. It prints opportunities for other wealth creation opportunities. And I think that's just, when you make that transition out of the sales into just really running, not in, but more on, or eventually getting above the business. You're right. There is a transition time to where you're like, go sell real estate. If you want to make a lot of money, go sell real estate. If you want to make an impact, make a difference, use this vehicle for other opportunities, then build the organization, build the team, have a destination in mind. But it's really, I think, like you said, just really get clear on what the purpose is and the impact that you're wanting to have.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. It's so good. So for you, kind of moving into the new year as kind of the leader, head of company, like what's the mantra, the message to the agents within the organization, or even the agents that are coming into the business? What's like, hey, this is where your mindset needs to be. This is where, you need to be thinking about every day.
We just wrapped up one-on-ones. We did a one-on-one with every person on the team, and as we grow, it becomes more and more difficult to do that just because it's the time, right? And you taught me that in the beginning. Do more group-on-ones. We felt it was important going into 2024 to sit down with each agent individually. And the common theme was actually people are seeking more accountability. They want to be called out. They want to show up more. They, we're feeling a market stabilization, right? The lead flow is down, and just getting back to the basics of day to day. Overall, for us, it's just, whereas we sometimes think like we're pushing too much accountability. There's too many things we're making people show up for. It was actually the opposite. Like, call me out. If I'm not there, like, make an example of me, lean on me, push me. And that's what people on our team are kind of wanting a little bit more of. And, we're going into January, so everybody's like gung-ho, guns blazing, New Year's resolutions. But I think, for us, that's what it is. We're going back to the basics. We're doing an hour of prospecting. We're doing an hour of follow-up. We do something called Monday Mayhem, which is like a group dial day. We're getting really super, super granular on our database, which has been very neglected, right? Like every organization has issues. We have not done a good job at keeping in touch with people in our database and touching them and nurturing them and loving on them. So that is a goal. We're committed to touching every single person in our database over the next first quarter of the year, really. And just doing better, like doing simple activities that just are going to accelerate our businesses.
World-class at the little things, I think is so key. And I think it's a great reminder, just as even, team leads, anybody, listening in to this message, is people want direction. People want accountability. They want that. They might not tell you directly or, in those exact words, but they're craving to be held accountable, especially if they're coming into a personal development growth organization. And that's one of the things that they embody, right? Like, it's always been my number one is growth. And, if you're not committed in doing the things daily to grow personally and professionally, then we don't have a future together.
It's true.
And like, I want to repel those people that aren't trying to get better. Like, I'm not trying to take on a project.
That's why we ask them in the interview, in the agent interview, and it's a questionnaire. It's on our questionnaire where they submit the video, right? Are you willing to be held accountable? Do you have personal responsibilities? Do you lead with excuses? Yes or no, right? Are you willing to be 1% better every day? These are things that we are so passionate about, because I know I've identified that if you give me a good person with a strong mental fortitude, I will make them a great real estate agent. I say, I'll meet you, right? I show up to and that's the other thing, right? Leaders think like, oh, I'm a leader now, I'm just going to step out. And a lot of our growth is in the fact that Bruce and I have never stepped out. And sure, have we learned to leverage, and are we in Costa Rica right now? Yes. And are scripts still happening in meetings? Yes. But I'm on every Zoom. I'm in every meeting. I'm dialing at every dial day. Like, I am doing what I tell the agents they need to be doing.
Yeah.
I'm no better than anybody else. And I will be in the trenches with them in every phase of it. And I think they know, if the market did shift, if things got bad, okay, we're going to freaking go to war. We'll do whatever we have to do. I'm not afraid. And I think that's just part of repetitious failure too, is being very much okay with what's around the bend, right? Your socks or your sneakers. And that happened to me in the marathon. My sneakers started killing my right foot at mile, 4. And I'm like, I'm not even going there. Literally not even going there. And my foot was black and blue, and it was whatever, but I just didn't go there. But, I
know exactly what you're talking about. I turned my left ankle mile 11 of 100 miles, mile 11. I turned my left ankle. I was like, nope, not even going to think about it. Just going to tighten the shoe, keep going. I think
my good friend, who's a crazy ultra runner like you, she was like, whatever happens in anything, in any race, you could show up, because I didn't feel good the morning of the marathon. I got an IV the day before. I had the flu. I was not well. She's like, no matter what happens, you're ready. You're trained. Your adrenaline will get you through, right? It's just your body will go into action mode, and it will get you through. But it's in the moment where you think for a second, uh-oh, or, I don't feel the best, or, I think we quit because we let our mind sort of go there. Yeah. And we're like, you know what? It would just be easier to stop, right? If you look back on your 60 mile, when you quit at mile 60, if you could go back, John, would you quit? Would you have quit?
Hell no.
Right. But because now you know that what you're feeling is fleeting. Right. And if you just push through it, you feel good again, but you got to just get yourself through that.
Right.
So
it's so good. And I think, I think the evolution and where leaders need to be thinking about. And I think if you don't have that peer group, if you don't have that mentor, if you don't have that coach, I would tell everybody listening in going into the new year, get that. I don't care. You know, the difference in mentorship and coaching is you invest in coaching. And as you were talking through and quit and you know, I justified it in my mind, right? Why I quit. I justified in my mind why I quit 80. I justified in my mind why I quit the other one. And looking back now, it was dumb, right? So going into this last one, and I think this is where great coaching comes in, right? Because just what you said, right? We all get into our heads. And this is why it's important that you're aligned, you're in an organization, or if you're leading, that you have great coach to lead you through this. Because I was doubting myself a little bit. And I talked to coach and I said, man, I don't think we put in enough work. And she said, well, let me tell you something. And I said, okay. She goes, you actually clocked more miles training for this race than you did Keys back in May. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no way. She goes, yes way. Mm-hmm. And she goes, then you weren't rucking, you weren't climbing hills. And what you've done is not only did you put more miles in, but you put that weight on your back and you were climbing hills. She goes, you are more than ready. Mm-hmm. And it just gave me that sense of confidence going in. And I felt it like when we were climbing hills, like I was Billy Goat past everybody. And I was like, this is because I put in the work. Right. And so then you build that confidence. And I think that's a great reminder for the leaders listening in and even yourself, right? Like you have things to draw back on. And so like your agent, she's led these other women through uncertain times when their significant other was deployed. She always has that to draw back on. You know, Goggins talks about the cookie jar, right? Like you always have that. And so anytime that you talked about, right, like you open it up, you make them get to their shit, you make them get into their trauma. And I think why that is so important is that because as they face new challenges, new things that they haven't developed, things that they haven't encountered, moving into just trivial business conversations in real estate. Yeah. They have hard stuff to be able to pull back on and be like, you got through that.
And that's exactly what it is, right? In this moment is picking up the phone as hard as the time when, right? And you need to know the trauma of what that is to be able to leverage that, hold it against them, whatever it is, right? Is it as hard as what you were experiencing when? The answer is always no. We're just making excuses for why we can't do the simple things that we need to do in our business. That's it. And, so good. And we've all been through really hard times. You know, on the way to the airport, I got a call from a family member, devastating, right? And, you know, Bruce said, you're on your way to paradise and boom. It's just, we call it the force of average, right? If you follow Stuman, that's what he calls it, right? Good. He's like driving, pothole. Good. And literally on my way to the airport with my kids to, you know, celebrate holiday and stuff, I get a call that nobody wants to get. And it's just, you could either lay down and cry, and you can do that for a minute, but you got to just, right? Lay down, think about it, process, assess, get back up, show up every day.
Keep moving. Yeah. You know, I don't know. I bet I told a dozen people on the race is your forward is a pace. Forward is a pace. I kept telling them.
Forward is a pace, and RFM. I always say that. Relentless forward motion. Just keep pushing forward, right? It's like lefty, righty. That's it. Little by little.
Keep those knees. And, you know, and I think, you know, I wrote down when you were talking there that great leadership is helping your people connect the dots. And that's what you do. You help your people connect the dots, and then you give them a framework to push through challenging times. And that's the culture, that's the organization that I believe is so paramount to thrive moving into the future. So, Lindsay, I you know, we can keep going. I know we're going to do this again, but I really appreciate you carving out some time, and Bruce and the kids allowing you to jump in and share your wisdom and passion back to this conversation. So I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you so much. I love you. You know that. Happy holiday.
Happy holidays. Love you guys.
If anybody needs, if I can ever help anybody, I always say contribution, right? Reach out to me. I'm happy to talk, answer questions, help in any way that I can. But until now, love you, Kitchens.
Love you guys. You're amazing. Thank you. See ya.